We're live. Welcome to Social Business Hour with Christin and Vincenzo. Vincenzo, I know that most of our regular viewers already know who you are, but if anyone is new in here, they might like to know a little bit about you. So can you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Vincenzo M. Landino. I am a CMO of 52 Creative, a digital marketing agency. And let's see, what else do I do? I like to speak. I like to make wine, and I'm a big Steelers fan. So those are usually things I'll talk about. You don't know Vincenzo. Yeah, you don't know. If you don't know me, that's cool. I would prefer that you guys I don't know you. That's cool. That's good stuff. But yes, my day-to-day right now is my agency work, and that's what I'm focused on. But hey, anytime I can jump on the SBizHour, I will do it because I love you guys.
Well, thank you for being here. And we are missing Brian and Rachel today, but they are both unavoidably out of pocket. So it's up to you and me, Vincenzo, and the community. I'm counting on you guys too. So,
well, we are here building extraordinary relationships.
We are.
And building community. So that's what we're doing here.
We're totally doing that. And I think most of you probably know me, but I'm usually off camera on the Twitter side of the Social Business Hour initiative. So here we are today. With that said, let's go ahead and do question one. And you know what we'll do, Vincenzo? I will say the question and you start answering it so I can tweet it out, okay?
You got it.
So question one is, relationships are a connection to others. What's the importance of relationships in our professional lives?
Well, if also professionally, I'm going to assume that not everybody here works for themselves, or not everybody here is in a position where they necessarily need to be dealing with outside individuals. Some people just work in a factory, or some people work, and have an internal role in a company, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you still have to focus on your relationships with coworkers, with I don't like to use the word superiors, but managers, your bosses, leadership. You have to work maybe with your team. There's relationships that are involved. And then, of course, there's those of us that own our own businesses, and everything is a relationship. And, the moment you stop thinking of what you're doing as a relationship with a human being is when you'll fail. The moment you think of, or the moment you forget that there's human beings behind not just social, but in everything we do, and I'll talk about my experience in, some corporate positions where people will be like, oh, leadership sucks. And I'm like, well, did you forget leadership? There's actual human beings there. Like, they're doing what, and I'm of the mindset where, like, it's hard to just blame, Johnny boss, because he's telling us to do this. It's not him. He's got somebody above him. So those are relationships. You have to build those relationships. There's always like a chain of command that we're following, and overlings. I like that. Steve, that's awesome. What's up, Brian? Brian's watching from the road. Don't watch and drive. So you have to remember that there's some sort of relationship. So there's a lot of people, whether they're above you, on the same page as you, maybe below you in the hierarchical flow of your job or your position or whatever it is that you're doing. But relationships are the building block to everything we do. And I'm going to, because the question is professionally, many people get their jobs because of relationships that they have with people. We hear this all the time. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's so true. It's so true. And that's not a knock on your talents or skills as an individual, but it is a direct reflection on how good you are with people. Can you relate with others? Yes, there is times where there's times where people, maybe they're not the most skilled or the most talented, and they know the right people, but that'll weed itself out. Having good relationships and building good relationships goes hand in hand with having the skills and the talent. So make sure that you have both, and you can do both. The best networkers, the best talkers, they're usually some of the best workers. I'm not saying that in a bad way towards those that are introverts. But I also don't think that I'm an introvert is an excuse for not building relationships.
I love where you went with your answer, because I had an answer in mind, but you made me think of a lot of things while you were talking, because you mentioned the different tiers, if somebody's a supervisor and somebody's, a direct report or whatever. And the thing about relationships is every one of us has the power to be truly significant to other people, regardless of our stations. You really can not only benefit from the relationship yourself, but you never know when you could totally save the day for somebody just by knowing them, caring about them, taking an interest, that kind of thing. For me, and I loved what you said about professionally, basically, I don't believe in being self-made. I believe that you can work your ass off, and you should, and you can position yourself to be worthy of opportunities that might come your way, but they don't just fall into your lap. They do happen because of relationships. You can trace just about every good thing that happens to you back to two things: your work and your relationship with somebody along the way. This year for me has been like an insanely awesome year, and I can trace it all back. Yeah, I hope I'm doing something good to be worthy of it, but I can honestly trace it all back to relationships. Frankly, it all starts with this show, with Social Business Hour, and Brian and Rachel. But I have had opportunities this year that are still blowing my own mind. And without the relationships there, it just doesn't happen. Somebody else can be working just as hard as me and have the same, abilities that I have, but without the relationships, it just doesn't occur. So I think relationships are just as much, if not more important as what you're capable of.
Well, and like Mitch Jackson just posted here in the side, it's plus you need to add value, right? So relationships, nepotism, a lot of people are like, well, he got the job because he's the boss's, whatever, nephew's former roommate. Guess that line from, I forgot exactly. It's a Spaceballs line, but my nephew's father's brother's former roommate. Anyway, that'll still weed itself out in due time. So don't ever think that just because those people get opportunities, don't think that they don't have to put in the effort at some point. Sometimes it's not good to know the right people get vaulted into a role that you're not ready for and then fail.
That's such a good point. You know what? Relationships are only a part of the puzzle. You do have to, and then you need to be worthy of that relationship on an ongoing basis. You're talking to someone who, my husband and I actually fired our own son this year. Fired. So the relationship is literally that I gave birth to this kid and he still got fired. So, you got to have the relationship and the concern for the relationship even once you're in position. I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
So,
you have to respect it too.
Absolutely.
You have to respect the relationships that you build, because those relationships, ultimately, when you build relationships with anybody, you need to remember that, like Christin now has a job at Convince and Convert working with Jay Bear and whatnot. But the people that recommended her or the people that talked about her, if that relationship wasn't built properly and it was built on, I don't know, it just wasn't built properly, or Christin wasn't who she, appeared to be, well, that person's putting themselves on the line too, their word on the line. I made that mistake, and I am now much more cautious about those types of things, who I recommend and who I get involved with, the relationships I build, because I got burned a few times. People were like, oh, who do you recommend? And I'm like, this is the go-to. And I'm like, okay, I'm trusting you, your word. And I'm like, oh crap. Wait, I don't really know that person that well. Yeah. So remember, relationships are super important with whatever we do. And, you need to treat it as such.
Absolutely. That's a good segue into question 2. So let's go ahead and jump into that one. And question 2 is, what is the most difficult aspect of creating and maintaining relationships?
Oh, I think I kind of just.
We got more. I know we.
No. I know that, but the most difficult aspect is, I don't know if this is the most difficult aspect, but this is definitely one that becomes, I hate the word authentic and real and be yourself, because we should be doing that regardless. That shouldn't be hard. It should never be hard to be yourself. It shouldn't be difficult to bring the real you. It should never be difficult to be authentic and real. And that's why, like, and listen, I'm one who preaches like being authentic and whatnot, but I've even tried to shift myself in that sense. So I think the hardest part becomes getting caught up and like not just pleasing people just to please them, and creating relationships with people that maybe you really don't align with. Like there's a lot of people that do that. They'll build relationships with people they perceive or they think they perceive as, you know, important. Like, wow, Christin Kardos can get me a job here. I'm going to build a relationship with her.
I mean, it needs to be authentic and natural. And
you need these. Yeah, it has to be a natural connection. I also don't go into any relationship that I build as what can you do for me? Mm-hmm. You know, it's what can I do for you? Usually and this is a Gary Vee quote, but if you ask first, if what you do is ask first, usually you're in second. Usually you're not usually you're not a leader if you're the person constantly, if you're asking. So don't ask somebody what they can do for you. How can you help them? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Wow, you went there. No, I agree with you totally. And a lot of people will talk about how to be strategic with your relationships. I'm not saying they're wrong. I just don't do that. I have never actually approached or taken a greater interest in someone for those reasons. I'm a connoisseur of people. I just love people, and I'm naturally curious and interested in whatever. And I guess I do want to play reindeer games too. So there's an element of me just kind of being social, but I definitely don't think you should be one way, as they say, and you shouldn't be selfish in your motivations.
You can't be. The moment you go in and you're like, well, I'm gonna, you know, build a relationship with Mitch Jackson because Mitch Jackson's a lawyer and he's going to give me free advice. Like, can I swear? I don't know if I can swear on the show. It's not my show. What?
Sorry, I'm muted because there's a dog thing happening. Shit, yes, you can swear. Go ahead.
The moment you think that, fuck you. Because you know what? Mitch Jackson's not going to give free content to you just because you built a relationship with him. Exactly. This is why you have to go in and add value. Right? It's a dance. It takes two to tango. Thanks, Mitch. That's actually where I was going with it. I was going to say it takes two to tango.
And like, you should be too busy thinking about how cool Mitch is and how different he is and how much fun and how informative. You should be too busy absorbing all of that to be thinking about what you can get out of him. Like, that's just how I function and how I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's so true. I mean, what you say, it's you're right on, really. There's never a time where you should take advantage of relationships you build. And listen, a lot of us have made this mistake. I've made this mistake where I built a relationship, genuinely built a relationship, but it turns into this very like, okay, is it adding value? Like, are we building business value with one another? Like, where's the... And instead of actually just pursuing it as a personal relationship or as a... Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, you know, you want relationships to be mutually beneficial. But, you know, it's hard to keep in mind, again, we're dealing with humans, so you don't want to always be, how is this going to affect my business? How's this going to affect my business? How is this going to affect my business? Or, you know, the best professional relationships I've built are ones that came from personal relationships, or when I truly cared about someone. When I went to, you know, a sponsor to the golf course when I was in nonprofit, right? Let's go golfing. Let's go to dinner. Most of the time that was on my dime because we're a nonprofit. They couldn't afford to do that. They're like, you could take people out for coffee. And I'm like, well, coffee's not going to cut it. This guy's going to drop a $30,000 check on my event that I'm running. So I'm going to take him to the golf course, you know, something like that. But that's when, and it was, we never even talked business. We shot the shit, smoked cigars, drank beer, had a great time. And then, you know what? Hey, I had sent a follow-up like that. I built a genuine relationship, never asked for anything. Here's a $50,000 check for your event. Wait a minute, I only need 30, but thanks, I'll take the extra 20. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. If you go ahead.
I just think that if the thing that drives you to get involved with another person is that you are interested in them or you like them or both, if that's your basic motivation, then the relationship's going to be a win-win, because you're being natural, and we're all unique. So we all have something to offer each other. So if you really think about it in the most basic terms, if that's how you do it, and I don't see any way around it being a win-win. And you're right that if you're just good to other people and you find people that you enjoy being connected with and they you, then things like that really can happen. I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have. That's what you said was so important. Aligning with people that you really want to be aligned with, and just being around people you really want to be involved with. I mean, if I didn't want to be involved with Christin and Brian and Rachel and like SBizHour, like I wouldn't come on here and do it. I don't like it. Doesn't do anything for me to be here. I'm doing it because I have a relationship with these guys. You know what I mean? Like. And that's where and then you know what? That's how I get the most value out of this stuff. That's how Christin gets the most value. Brian, Rachel, like that's how they get the most value out of doing things like this, because they care about the people that show up, the audience, each other. And then, oh, by the way, we get a ton of value from it. Like it's a side, you know, and the thing is, a lot of people will be like, oh my God, you get tons of value from that. I want to do it because I want to get tons of value. It's like, whoa, slow your roll. Chicken or the egg here. No, it's totally this is all about the relationship first, and then everything else comes second.
Absolutely. As to my answer to the question about what's the most difficult.
You have an answer too?
No, but for me,
I'm kidding.
For me, it's time, because I want to do more in any given day. I want to do more things to express my gratitude to my friends, or just to communicate with them, just to check in with them. And I find that each day I wish I had a little bit more time for that. And I'll give you a more concrete example. This year I feel like a total asshole because I don't really send out Christmas cards. It's just not something that my family and I really do. And this year I've gotten like a lot of really nice gestures in the mail from amazing people that I've met through social media. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if only I had taken a little bit of time and focus, time, honestly, just time to set something like this up for these people, I would like to do the same thing. And I feel, so that's something that I see it as a challenge, but I also see it as one that I really want to plug in and try to overcome. I don't know if that makes
sense. No, it does. Hello? You keep fading in and out.
Well, I'm doing it on purpose because I have people here that are not being quiet. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, so we can jump into question 3. Question 3, we learn by doing. So what communities, and this can be online or offline, have you been part of that have helped you, and why?
Wow, that's a good question. What communities online and offline have been part of? There's a lot. I mean, okay, well, define communities, because what's interesting to me is that we're trying to say communities, but what's a community? Like, is SBizHour a community?
Yes, but for the purposes of this question, community can be anything that you say it is. Online, offline, doesn't matter.
I'm going to defer to your answer right now because I don't know.
Okay. My answer, and I've been involved in a lot of online communities that have really changed my life, but I wanted to go with a couple of offline examples. Number 1, I had the privilege of working as a civilian with United States Marines for 2 years. Talk about community. That was a community. And I really benefited from that because not only, of course, some of it was about the specific individuals, they're not all alike. And there was a really good culture within the unit that I worked with, but there were some commonalities among all of them. And the ingenuity, the creative, a lot of people don't think of people in the military as being creative, but they are, because they have limited resources and they have lofty goals. So there's a lot of creativity involved, and that even goes to relationships, believe it or not, because there might be a very well-established chain of command, but you still have to get shit done. And I saw some really innovative ways that they would do that, including the use of relationships. And then the other one was a few years ago, as you know, Vincenzo, my husband and I got involved with the motorcycle community. And that's a thing I never would have seen coming, not because I stereotyped them or thought anything negative, but it just not a place that I ever saw being like part of my lifestyle. But the thing is, and I think even more than the first example I cited, that has changed my life. I have learned so much about caring for others and community, and just kind of having like a good attitude, and how to love people, kind of. Surprisingly, it might be to some people, but I've gotten a tremendous amount of that from my exposure to and proximity to motorcycle communities, both in Okinawa and here in Texas. So that's my answer.
Those are your two communities. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't really have an answer, I think, for the question, because I feel like I build, this goes back to like in high school. And this is going to be funny, but hear me out. I never associated with a specific group of people, right? Like I was never in any specific community. I was kind of like, I was with everybody. People always said I should have been a politician because like I was friends with everybody. I never picked a specific community to, stick my foot in the sand and be like, this is where I, whatever, do my thing. So I don't know. I mean, online communities for sure. I mean, SBizHour, these are great people. I've met a lot of people in the marketing.
Online accounts.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I did a lot there. There was a ton of, there's a huge startup community here in Connecticut that I was a part of for a while. It's a nice startup ecosystem that I was a part of, and I had the opportunity of. I founded an incubator here in Connecticut and a collaborative workspace in Connecticut. Met a ton of really cool entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, startups that are doing some really cool things. Just right here in Connecticut, where we thought like, oh, it's not Silicon Valley, or this is not New York, or this is not anywhere cool. So there's a really cool ecosystem here. I got to be involved with for a while. Still have ties to, but just kind of doing some other things. And I also got involved with, I'm trying to think. Google has a startup. It's called Startup Grind. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but got involved with that community as well. And that was an interesting community to get involved with because there's a lot of, again, it's successful, like super successful entrepreneurs. And I met a lot of really, really successful guys and gals that started in their basement and now they've got like multi-million-dollar. So for me, like those are really inspirational communities. Mm-hmm. It wasn't to be like, oh, look at us, we have tons of money, because it didn't do me any good in that case. But it was all about, that inspiration, that drive. I'm really big into entrepreneurship and whatnot. So a lot of those communities have been beneficial for me and my personal development. And I mean, I've also joined, like I was part of an Italian-American community for a long time, and that was really awesome. I don't know if people are involved in, I love culture and history. So for me, it was about culture and history, Italian-Americans in the United States or in Connecticut. And directly in my community, there's a huge concentration of Italian-Americans. So for us, that was a way to get together a lot, very often. And, and those built, what's funny there, that was a personal community, but it built so many professional relationships too, because everyone does something. Everyone's got, a role somewhere, and we were all able to help each other. I mean, I started with I had no communities, and then I came up with 10, but
yeah, no, that's great. I think another one for you, and this is very generic, sort of broad and vague, but live streaming communities that you have participated in and sort of become a standout. And I think that has been huge for you this year.
Yeah, the Meerkat community specifically was a fantastic opportunity. If it wasn't for, live streaming, I still probably would have never met. I definitely would have not met you, Christin, this year in the flesh. We'd still be talking online, and even Brian.
I was trying to remember when you and I actually first met.
That was
online.
Oh, online. Oh,
yeah,
God.
and I can't. I know it was this year, but I can't.
No, it was last year.
Was it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it was definitely. I want to say it was a buffer chat.
Probably. That
Back
sounds
when I had 500 followers or something, and no one knew who the hell I was. Now no one knows who I was, and I have more followers. Nothing changes.
You're so silly.
Enzo, we might have met at a Steelers game. That's funny because me and Brian met through a Steelers conversation online. I had my account. Brian might have been on his Pittsburgh fans Twitter account. And again, I only used Twitter at the time to talk about the Steelers. I mean, I didn't really do anything. I had a Steelers fan site that I ran for a while. And so I was like, oh, this Twitter thing might be cool. And that's how I met Brian. And finally, because of live stream, right? Was it live stream? Where did Brian? Oh, Brian and I met in San Diego. So yeah, technically because of live stream, Brian and I met each other face to face. So yeah, live stream community has brought me face to face with a ton of really awesome people.
Yeah. And now, of course, there are different communities within live streaming, but as a concept, I think that's been pretty amazing this year for a lot of people, but including you. All right, let's hop into question 4. Get ready, you guys. Are you ready? Let's see. Most worthwhile relationships have conflict at some point. What are your tips for resolving conflicts?
I don't have a tip for resolving conflict. I have a tip for, this goes back to just being yourself, right? This is where I will say be yourself. If you're yourself from the get-go with whatever relationships you build, you'll build relationships with people that are either going to say, accept you for your ideas, or they're going to tell you to your face, I disagree, and have it out. Perfect example, Brian and myself, and I don't know if Amy's still in here, Amy Schmidauer and myself. Brian and I have, I don't want to say had it out, because we do it respectfully. We respect each other. So when Brian and I disagree on something, we still respect the other's viewpoint, and we will always, always, always end up with, love you, bro, or something like that at the end. And so I think that conflicts, a true conflict, like Patrick said, leads to a better solution. But a true conflict is also because many times you don't respect the other person. That's again, this is my personal opinion on a conflict. And when you do respect someone, it's usually, an educated conversation. So make sure you're aligning with people you respect, you're aligning with people, but that all boils down to being yourself right from the get-go. Because if you're faking it at the get-go just to get in, you're going to be biting your tongue a lot, or you're going to be, or you're going to look like an asshole to that connection that you thought you made, because, hey, they thought you were this, you had this stance. Now all of a sudden you're talking to us from over here. Like, what the hell? What's that all about?
Yeah. I like what you said about respect. I think that's the bedrock. I think you nailed it with that. I also think we have to keep in mind that we're talking about conflicts within a relationship, not a conflict with a stranger or troll on the internet. So there's a big difference, because presumably you have a relationship there that is worth protecting, worth keeping. So you're going to have a different approach probably, and you care about the person on the other end of it, even if they've hurt your feelings. Interesting. I think it's interesting how people really do. We're not all the same, and we really do operate from different perspectives and on different currency. My currency isn't the same as yours. When I say currency, I mean the things that I value and the things that are my pain points, or the things that I get sensitive about. We're all different. So I think it's important to try to relate to other people based on their currency, especially when you have a conflict, because if you assume already that you have a relationship with this person, which means you're fond of them to some extent, then most likely it's a misunderstanding or a conflict in currency, as I would say. So trying not to get defensive, trying to think about, okay, they just pissed me the hell off, or I don't know why they're mad at me. Try to break it down, peel back the onion, figure out what actually the conflict is, and then look at how you can get past it rather than who did what to screw things up. the finger pointing. I mean, saying you're sorry is a very powerful thing, especially if you mean it. But try to figure out what actually happens so that it doesn't happen every week,
I think that there's also a lot to be said for vulnerability. And one of my absolute best friends, who I met through the Twitter sphere, Jason Yarborough, Yarby. He's done a lot in my life to help me with vulnerability and understanding vulnerability. And if you made a comment, you said, saying sorry and whatnot. Saying sorry can be totally a token action if you don't mean it. If you're opening yourself to vulnerability within that relationship, you are truly acting on that sorry. You are truly allowing the other person to have their point of view. Like, it's one thing to be like, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, people do that all the time in arguments. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. You don't unless you truly are vulnerable and you're like, you know what, I get it. Like, I can reason with this conversation or this person because, number one, I respect them and I've opened myself up to this relationship and to this conversation, to this disagreement, whatever it may be. So vulnerability goes a long way. There's a book, I have to get the name of it, that's goodness, it's I forget the name of it right now. I'll find out, but it's a really good book that goes into vulnerability and how that can help with relationship building and even just yourself.
I love it.
Being a better person.
I love that, though, because that vulnerability indicates a dropping of or lack of pride. And I think pride can often be the biggest problem when there's a disagreement or conflict. Not wanting to back down or not wanting to look weak, or you hurt my feelings, so now my pride is kicking in, and it's making me defensive or whatever. I'm loving some of the comments that are going on in the sidebar here. You guys are awesome. Christin said, respect is one of the hardest terms to explain simply to a child. Through conflict opportunities, we eventually learn to define it for ourselves. That's some deep stuff right there, but she's right. And I agree with Mitch too. You guys were great today. Okay, so.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us, by the way, guys. I know we're not Brian and Rachel, but hang with us.
All right, let's go ahead and hop into question 5. And that goes like this. What are your go-to tools for building and maintaining relationships? And these can be digital tools or they can be anything at all.
Right here. Hold on. I'm going to take these out. I got 2 of them right here. Keeping this shut and these open. You got 2. I will not. There's no other tool. I'm not even going to go and suggest any digital tool. I mean, it's your ears. It's, we could preach about social listening and all this other stuff. There's only so much that an algorithm can ever tell me. There's only so much that a computer can ever spit out. But there's nothing that can be said about these and these. Like, there's nothing like getting FaceTime with somebody. There's nothing like seeing the expression in someone's face, truly listening to what someone has to say. We're also good at multitasking and whatnot. Like, that is the biggest downfall of relationships. Like, you're out with, and I'm going to say a girlfriend, but this could be anybody. And it's, yeah, I'm paying attention. Oh, cool. Yeah. What are you saying? Like, that's not listening. I'm listening to my dog right now, though. Yo. Yeah, you truly, truly have to keep your ears open and listen to people. Just listen to people.
I agree. KP said, what you're talking about and how can I download it? No, but I agree with you. I would, to jump on that same vibe, because my answer is pretty much the same as yours, but I would add to that, I consider my communication channels to be tools. From my phone to social networks to email and phone calls, just wait the connection, the way the connection can be made, because so many people are not in proximity. So maybe I can't listen to them with my actual ears, but I can send them a text or, look on their Facebook or something like that. So I do think that when you're talking about professionally, there are some tools that can help you if you're trying to get your shit together and get organized. Like, for example, I know you, but what if I was really, really trying to figure out the very first time that we met so I could talk to you about it? I could go into a tool like Nimble, and that might help me for reference. And that's not going to build a relationship for me, but it might help me organize things a little bit. So. I can't hear you, Ben.
I would say, yeah, that's great and all, using tools to do that kind of thing. Again, there's still an aspect of truly knowing and remembering certain conversations. Like, yeah, we don't remember when we don't remember when we had that conversation or remember the first time that we met, but we've still built that relationship by listening. We've still built that relationship by trying to add that face-to-face value. We have video calls all the time. We're doing things like that. So we're adding to it. So it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't matter when we met the first time. It just matters how we've comported ourselves over that time.
Agree. All right, let's kick into this last question, and then I think that'll leave us a few minutes at the end if anyone would like to jump in with us and talk relationships. So question 6, will you be making any changes in your approach to relationships in 2016? And if so, what will they be?
I just had this conversation with someone, and there's some changes coming that are already happening for me personally. I really want to go deeper with my relationships as opposed to just having more relationships. And I'm not one to have like a bajillion friends, or something like that. I'm still one that like I confide in very few people and, things like that. Yeah, Brian, I measure my clout score from the ground. Just remember that, my friends. Just remember that. Anyway, for me, what I'm going to do is I refuse to jump on bandwagons. And I've done that a lot. A lot of people have noticed it. Like my closer friends have noticed, like, hey, notice that you're really taking a stand on certain issues lately. And to me, people are probably going to ask, well, what does that have to do with building relationships? Well, because I'm done just jumping on bandwagons to appease certain people. Like, I really want to have relationships where we are respectful of one another and where we're respectful of one another, but we also have enlightened conversation. I want enlightened conversation. I'm done just appeasing people in conversation. The old, blowing smoke up someone's ass. Like, I hate that. I'm not into that. And I've done it. We've all done it. We can't say none of us haven't done that. And yeah, maybe it's growing up. But yeah, Brian, you're trolling your own damn chat, my friend. All right.
Leave it to Brian.
Yeah. And now you got people asking how I got my blue check on Facebook. Yes. Oh, I should have, I'm going to lead with that. How about that? Hi, I'm Vincenzo.
Vincenzo and I are good enough friends that when I saw his blue check mark this weekend, I was like, oh, no, he didn't. Yeah. So if you want to talk about that, please, by all means.
No, I don't want to talk about it. My point is, I'm really done. This is my agenda for 2016. Like, I'm jumping off bandwagons, and I'm inviting others to come along with me and create my own bandwagon. But no, really, like I'm jumping. I don't want to be this bandwagon person anymore. I'm not looking to be and I'm not saying that I am. I'm a Steelers fan. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We're pretty good. Never mind.
Wow.
This is going places. No, for real though.
Before this goes any further aside, would anyone like to jump on camera with us? Because we'd love to have a guest come on with us.
Yeah, I know. Facebook verified is so 2010. Like, But really though, I'm over the people think like, oh, we're a community because everyone's just agreeing with what everyone else says. Like, that's not a community. That's a freaking cult.
But there's a fine line, I think, because now that we're talking bandwagon.
Yeah, there is.
The reason there's a bandwagon is because there's something good there.
No. And it depends on what the bandwagon. I agree. I depend. Like, like Patriot fans. That's a bandwagon I don't ever want to be on. There's nothing good that can come out of that. Anyway, no, here's what it comes down to. Yes, there are some good things that can be said, but there's a lot of individuals that jump on these bandwagons, and what they do is they just fail to ever stand out or ever have a voice and opinion. So, and again, that's why I call it a cult, right? If everyone agrees with everybody else, you're blind. You're blind following the blind, essentially. Have your own thoughts and opinions. If you don't agree with something, you'll get more respect by having an opinion on that matter. And that's what happens. There's so many people that are afraid to speak up and afraid to have their own opinions. I'm sick of it, and we see it so much online because it's so easy to type. It's so easy to do this. People forget. They forget how to have their own voice. I
agree with you. Again, with fine lines, though, I think don't bandwagon just because other people are doing it, but don't dissent just to be cheeky or different. Have a believe in things and then stand by your beliefs, but keep an open mind when you're discussing.
Well, of course. I mean, there's people, yes, there are those that will just disagree for the sake of disagreeing just to be an asshole. Absolutely. That's a totally different story. What's up, Mitch?
And now you have to bring the lawyers into it. Okay, thanks, Vincenzo.
And I got to bring you into this shit. I'm leaving.
No, listen, real quick. It's interesting. You guys need some help with the trolls over in the comments. We're here for you, okay? But it is what it is. That's what happens when you get verified. And I think your verification, Vincenzo, is awesome, dude. I think that's fantastic. Kudos, okay? Hey, what's really interesting is you talk about relationships, you talk about the communities, and you guys are talking about a unique community. You both met online in some type of buffer chat. That's the two of you. So you brought into this relationship a social media type of background. You're both looking at things the same way. My interactions with the two of you, I come from a different community. I mean, most of my relationships in business over the last 30 years have not been online. They haven't been on social. So I have different protocols, different what's right, what's wrong. I'm still trying to learn what's okay and what's not okay. But I jumped online, a few years ago, and we've all started connecting. And so I'm trying to learn how your communities and relationships work online. I think we've all talked on the phone. I think offline, you're kind of experiencing how I do business and how I build relationships. And I think it's really important for people in the comments and people watching the recorded version of this blab is we're all coming into this new real-time video digital platforms with different experiences and different viewpoints on how to build relationships and communities, right? And so like what Vincenzo said, I think it's really important if we listen and observe more than we speak and instruct or lecture, we can kind of digest what other people are bringing into the relationship from their past experiences. Christian, with your experiences as a civilian in the military, okay, you have a certain way of going through life. With Vincenzo's experiences, he has a certain way of going through life, and so do I. Now we're bringing all these experiences onto this blab platform, and the next question is, what's right or wrong? I mean, is it okay for people in the comments to poke fingers at any of the three of us, even if they're just joking around? The answer is yes, it is. But if there's somebody in this fourth seat that's not used to that, their feelings are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And we get that, but they're going to leave and maybe never come on blab again.
So true.
And so it's kind of interesting where we all have to kind of take a step back and really give everybody else a chance and a break. If somebody posts on social the wrong way, it doesn't necessarily mean they're an asshole or they're going about things the wrong way. It might just be a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that. I mean, and
no, I totally agree. That's a really good point. I have found myself a few times just this year seeing disagreements between people that I know and respect and feeling like ooh, they're just misunderstanding each other. That's not what he meant. And he's not really like that. And like, oh, and of course I don't get involved in other people's business, but you know, it's about context and thinking it all through and looking at the other person's perspective, I guess, is really important. And like you said, you know, the type of relationship can dictate what's okay and what's not okay. You know, so,
it dictates our perception. In other words, Vincenzo or Christin, you may say something and I may perceive your answer differently than who's sitting in the seat number 4. And it comes from our past experiences. And so when I'm trying cases and picking juries, what's really challenging is I got to try to figure out if I say something, am I offending somebody? I don't mean to, you guys know me. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but you got to watch what you say and what you do and be aware of that. And that's why I think this topic is so important, because this is all new for all of us, regardless of how, maybe we've been on it for a couple of years. You know, this is a new platform, live streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And so we're all still learning it, right?
You can watch what you say or be tactful and still be honest. It doesn't mean that you have to change how you feel or what it is that you want to say. You just might frame it in a different way. Because some people are like, I'm going to be me and I'm going to say what I want to say. Well, you still can if you just find a diplomatic way to say it, especially if you're in what we would call mixed company, where it's not all your best friends that you're talking to.
And listen, I get it. And Mitch, I'm going to disagree, and I respect you. And you know, I really dig your opinion. I'm not disagree, but I want to say, like, if we're always, I guess it's just trying to, I'm just trying to figure out how to word this, because I'm just trying to formulate it in my head. But I don't want to call it like political incorrectness or politically correct or whatever. Like, being diplomatic is one thing, but I think we try so hard, and there's like, and it's not an epidemic. I don't want to use the word epidemic. I'm trying to figure out the right word for it, but there's so many people that try to be like politically correct with everything that they hold it back. It's very difficult to be diplomatic about something and still, and Mitch, you can, you know, please, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Yeah, I think it's very difficult to be diplomatic and also really have an opinion on something. I really, really do. Now, that is different from having an opinion and expressing it respectfully. You can have an opinion and be a total jerk about it. That's completely different, right? Than being. But I think that, you know, being diplomatic is maybe I'm just misdefining the word, or I'm not defining it properly. But I think if you're too diplomatic, sometimes you're still hiding in what you really feel.
Yeah, I think it's really important to at least be aware of the importance of being diplomatic. In other words, there's a reason why the world works the way it does, and it's one thing to separate issues from people. You can be hard on issues, you can be hard on opinions, but you're kind to people. And as long as you can separate the issues or the opinions from the person you're engaging with, I think that's the tough part, but that is the secret also to continuing and building good relationships. It's one thing for me to say, Vincenzo, what you just said is so freaking stupid. I don't believe it. Right. But you know, I don't feel that way, and I would never say that. It's another thing to say, you know, that's interesting that you would say that. I've never really thought that way before. Let me give that some more consideration. Geez, Vincenzo, I respect so much what you're doing. I'm going to spend some time tonight researching that. I may not come up with the same conclusion that you've arrived at, but I respect you enough where I'm going to spend some time and look into it. So we're separating the issues from the people, and really good negotiators are good at that. I was kind of thinking more so lower the bar a bit. Just anybody going online, even if we all agree at the same thing or the same issues, the way we interact online, people may not be comfortable with forming relationships online if they're used to doing it offline. Okay. Right. And so if we take them by the hand and we bring them onto Blab and we show them how it's okay to speak with an open heart, communicate how you really feel about something, but you know, you separate the people from the issues, then I think more and more people get comfortable with live streaming and being on Blab, for example. So no, I get it. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. And I think 20 years from now, psychiatrists will be going back and looking at how all of us have changed as human beings with this new type of interface and these new types of relationships. Because as much as the same that it is with offline relationships, there are differences here.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a matter of figuring it all out together.
Mm-hmm. No, Mitch, you definitely have great points, and you add amazing value in everything you do. And if I ever disagree with you, it's
I want you to.
No, and I understand.
We're good. That's why I'm on the show. I love what you guys are doing. Right. This is a great topic.
Go ahead, Ben.
No. I think there's just too many people that don't express their opinion. So we have a lot of people out there that are all just saying the same thing. They just maybe look a little bit different, or maybe they put a different spin on it. So I'm trying to get away from that. I want to get away from the people that are all being the same. And I hate to use the word sheep, but that's what ends up happening. Like,
but do you
be
think
different, be yourself.
Do you think there's a time and place for that? And then, in other words, let me share a thought with you. And I feel very strongly about this. And Shama Kabani, who's now Shama Hyder, who's very well known in social media, we talked about this. And it has to do with business. And if you spend your time talking about politics online, and all of us have the right to do that, these are great platforms to discuss the political issues that are pending right now. The bottom line is, regardless of how right you think you are or what your position is, you're probably going to alienate about 50% of the people that are watching you. And that's okay. Now, let me finish my train of thought here. If we're in a portal where we're friends talking about this, that's one thing. If you're building a business, if you've got a startup and you're actively promoting a certain political agenda or supporting a certain political candidate, whether you like it or not, you will be alienating about 50% of your potential client base. Now, having said that, a lot of people are okay with that. I don't want to do business with those people anyway. On the other side of the coin, a lot of those people are really, really good people that could probably benefit from your products or services, who will never give you a shot because of something that's said, whether it's politics, religion, Monday, gender equality, whatever the issue may be. So I think that taking a stand and being real is important. But I also think when things come up during a business conversation, it's okay to keep your mouth shut and let other people share their thoughts and views. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a dance, and I think you have to be careful about that. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean,
seriously, if you disagree, just let me know.
No. It's not that I understand. I agree with the fact that certain things maybe you don't even touch, but that has to be set out. That has to be set right from the get-go. Like, I don't talk about this, end of story. I've had people that are like, I don't talk about politics, right? I had someone reach out to me and say, I don't talk politics. Yeah. Yet, 2 weeks prior, made a comment about something political. And I'm like, well, that doesn't match what doesn't match. You're not, you're not being consistent.
Forget about what they're doing. Forget about what they're doing. I'm just saying, when you're trying to build your company, it's like, how do you, I'm just saying, be careful about that kind of stuff. There's a lot of really successful people out there that, understand that sometimes you say one thing and you're alienating 50% of your potential client base. And
I'm not going to, I get that statement of fact there, right, Mitch? However, what about let's take into consideration, let's just use political conversation just because we're there. Okay. If I were to come out and say, I denounce the left or whatever. Now I alienate 50% of people, but now maybe I've gained 25% of people that I would have even touched. And again, just using this as an example, is there value there?
Well, that's
I don't know.
Isn't it?
I'd say the risk in that situation substantially outweighs the value. In my opinion.
But that's a personal choice, is it not? Because, like, for example, that works great for Eminem. It probably wouldn't work for me. It's it's just a choice that you're making, realistically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for jumping on.
Hello. I'm loving this conversation. I'm seeing people calling us out in the comments. I'm getting ready to echo a lot of what Mitch just said. And for the record, the attorneys are saying that we should not create all this conflict online. So just want to point that out at the start of this.
Jen,
I want to take it back though. Right now the conversation is kind of about clients, but a lot of this conversation is reminding me of, the fact that I use Facebook to keep up with people I haven't seen in years and years and years, high school friends, like whatever. And I'm finding that a lot of these people use Facebook or even Twitter, maybe sometimes Instagram, to blanket their opinions, to share these opinions that they clearly haven't thought about the repercussions of sharing those with people like me who maybe they haven't seen in years. And I am now suddenly, thinking of them like, wow, really? They think that? They said that out loud? And, certainly I could be a potential partner with them. Like, that's why I want to stay in touch with them and keep them in this online community base that I have. Because at one point we probably had some kind of relationship. But, I think that's one thing that we're also not thinking about is when we get on Facebook, when we share some kind of blanket statement about something that's happened to us or how we feel about a certain political event or how we feel about, whatever, we're having a rough day. And for some reason, people just want to vent on certain platforms, which I personally do not endorse, but some people do. We forget about the repercussions of that and the opinions that we're leaving on other people, even to that degree. So I recently heard, I don't even remember where I was, and if I heard it on Blab, whoever said it, take credit for it. But more often than not, we are talking and we're listening to agree or disagree. Instead, we should be talking and listening for information gathering. Like, no one says you have to agree or disagree. It's okay just to be like, hey, Vincenzo, you told me something I didn't know. That's fine. Like, that's it. It can stay right there.
I love it. I love it.
Just taking that back, making everything a conversation, whether it's online or in person, but certainly online and the way things are going, we need to make it more conversational. And we just need to be more aware of the influence that we're casting on people, whether it's for a business purpose or a relationship purpose or a networking purpose, because everything we put out there, we are having some kind of impact on somebody, whether we mean to or not.
Well said.
Thank you.
I think that was a mic drop. No, but I love that point. I mean, not everything is a call to action for us.
Yeah.
You post something on your Facebook, is that a call to action for me to then have an opinion on it or the solution to your problem or whatever? Maybe we can just calm down in that regard. I really like that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. Just because we have an opinion or just because we can say something, sometimes it takes more strength not to share your opinion, not to say something, than it does to actually step and do so. And I'm looking at some of the comments and look, guys, just because you don't share your opinion about something or voice an opinion or a position, that doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're talking about. It might actually indicate that you're very astute as to the direction this particular blab's going, for example, and the risk of sharing that opinion substantially is outweighed by the harm that it may cause, the alienation of relationships. And all I'm saying is that's why this blab, I jumped on this blab, Christin and Vincenzo, because it's a great topic. It's a great topic that we're all trying to figure out. How do you build, how do you improve relationships, especially using live streaming? And, we're all trying to figure it out together. So it's interesting. I'm going to take, for example, what Vincenzo said, and Christian, what you said, and Jennifer, I think you and I actually agree on some of this stuff. And I'm going to digest it and give it some more thought because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, same. I think the reason why what Jen said hit me so hard is because I think I really need to think about that. I think even today, maybe I had an opinion that it's not like I was a jackass, but maybe it just didn't need to be done. So I'm really I'm taking that.
Well, Vincenzo points out, but Vincenzo makes a good point because while I don't like discussing religion or politics, and I haven't for the last couple of years online, just this morning I posted a funny, cartoonish type of post on one of my platforms. And I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I guess, every once in a while, there are exceptions. Every once in a while, we're human beings. We make mistakes, we slip, or we feel like we need to say something, right? I mean, I don't think you can have a black or white type of rule on this type of stuff.
It's true.
Kind of depends on who's in the dance with you, right?
Absolutely.
I appreciate you guys so much for jumping on here. I think we're going to wrap it up. Vincenzo, do you have anything, any parting words?
Got nothing to say. I'm done.
He's using his ears. He's using his ears.
No, but thank you so much for being on today, Vincenzo. And if you actually do have parting words, I would love to hear them.
No, go see Star Wars again, like Patrick said.
Okay, you guys. Well, we have one more episode for this year. It will actually be the 50th episode of Social Business Hour next Monday. We don't have it scheduled yet. That'll be coming soon. So I hope you guys can jump back in with us then. I really appreciate everyone who came today. Patience with Twitter because I'm on here, so I'm being really slow. We love you guys and appreciate you, and happy holidays, and hope to see some of you next week.
All right, take care, guys.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye, Mitch. Bye, Jen. Bye, Kristen.
Bye.
Bye.